All right, third time's the charm. We are going live. We are going to talk about dystonia. We're going to meet Diane for sure this time. I am really excited. I think this is going to work. If we haven't met, my name is Julie Hirschberg. I am a neurologic physical therapist, the owner and founder of Re+active Physical Therapy and Wellness. And I'm going to go live today. Cross our fingers. I think it was a technology piece, and this should work now. And
Yay!
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 I'm gonna be dancing. Third time's the charm, Diane.
I
Yay!
feel like we're best friends already.
I do. I already made an Instagram phone call to you, which I've never done, and then I got to call you on the phone. I mean, yeah, we are we are besties now. Oh my gosh. Well, this is just going to be the best interview ever because I was so anticipated.
Yes.
Um, and I was sharing with folks as we were kind of trying to get you on about our dystonia program, but I really want people to hear from you. So can you share a little bit of your story and your journey with dystonia?
Yes. Well, it starts with my mother. Well, actually, it starts with me, but then it quickly goes to my mother. I started noticing about 6 or 7 years ago that when I was jogging, my right leg just didn't seem to want to pick up. And it was getting harder and harder to run. And I was running shorter and shorter distances. And I would tell any and every healthcare provider, sports medicine, docs, plural, primary care, uh, alternative providers, I just can't run the way I used to. I don't know what's going on. And finally, I started limping when I was walking, and my mother died of ALS. So I was sure that I had ALS, and I couldn't tell anyone this because bad news travels really fast. And I have 4 kids, and they all live in this town. And I literally made an appointment for the ALS clinic, and later that day with the therapist, so that I could talk about it, how I was going to tell my kids that I was dying. And thank God I did not have ALS, but the 2 ALS special neurologists were like, well, you don't have ALS. And I was, of course, I was ecstatic. And I said, that is so great. What am I going to do? I can't walk. How do I figure out what's going on? And they're like, I don't know. Maybe Maybe you have MS. Luckily, I'm a healthcare provider. I knew I was too old for MS, plus I didn't have the symptoms, but it was just kind of crazy. It's like, well, you don't have ALS, so you're on your own. And they suggested PT and general neurology, and I saw a spine surgeon. I got a brain MRI, spinal MRI, uh, 2 spinal MRIs, actually, lower and upper, 2 sports medicine docs, chiropractors, and finally, general neurology was so backed up, but I got in, and I wrote about this actually. It was a female neurologist, and she's like, yeah, you definitely don't have ALS. I think you have runner's dystonia. And I was like, what? And
Wow.
that was it.
What a journey. So you had these initial symptoms and you had this past experience obviously with ALS and went down the gamut of testing and finally got diagnosed. And then from there, what did you do and how was it impacting your life at that point?
Well, I'm very active, and I actually walk really fast and move really fast. And I just had this weird gait. Like, first, it started where my toes were scuffing under on my right foot. And then my knee kind of stopped bending. And then my hip was hitching up. So dystonia changes actually how the gait looks. Some days it can be better. You know this, but not everybody might know this. Some days are better, some days are worse. And I went to PT here where I live in Oregon, and they were very supportive, but they clearly hadn't had a lot of expertise with runner's dystonia, which is a very modern, bizarre malady, come to find out. And I went online and started learning what I could. I'm voracious, I'm a voracious learner. And I found some articles and I found the Facebook group about runner's dystonia. And I think it was there that I probably first heard about reactive or just searching. And you are the only place in the United States that seems to treat focal dystonias.
It is our love. Not gonna lie. And what is it then? I mean, I can just tell, and everybody can tell how smart and on top of it you are with all of these things. And what was it that kind of drew you to our program? Because it's a little more intensive and like holistic program, maybe compared to what you might find.
Well, first of all, holistic is the one word you can say to me that I've been wishing healthcare was for all the
Mhm.
4 or so decades I've been in healthcare.
Mm.
So the holistic aspects of the program were really attractive to me, even though I really had no idea how amazing they were going to be. Nobody uses that word if they don't have some sense of this is a whole body, mind, spirit thing. It's not just the leg. And the other thing that I have to admit is that I grew up in San Diego, and LA was my teenage and 20s stomping ground. And I haven't been there forever. And my father still lives in San Diego, and my brother. So it was kind of a really great excuse to have some fun in LA, quiet time, not too much fun. Because the program, I needed a lot of
Yeah.
downtime and then go to San Diego and see my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. That's a great story. And you know, picking up and moving wasn't as big for you. It's somewhere you've been, but did you have hesitations about trying something like this?
Well, not really. I could tell from your website. Oh, and also it was really helpful to have a telehealth meet and greet with Lincoln.
Yeah.
And for Lincoln, who's your director of the dystonia program, to ask me questions and me be really clear that he knew what he was talking about, uh, and that he was confident that the program would help me. And yeah, coming from the Pacific Northwest to Southern California in November is always a good idea.
That is true. That is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So now I wonder if you can share a little bit about what changes occurred while you were here and afterwards, maybe some of the things that you
Uh-huh.
learned, because you were just with us for just a couple of weeks, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we had worked that out ahead of time. Lincoln said, because I have a really long background in yoga and mindfulness, and we thought we'll try 2 weeks and go from there. And Julie, I was just blown away. Lincoln and Ava and Leanne and Mike, and I can explain who all those people are, and Andrea. Lincoln and Ava, I was doing PT an hour every day those 2 weeks, except the weekend. And I did occupational therapy with Leanne 4 times. And I saw Mike, the psychologist, twice, and Andrea, the yoga therapist, twice. And I think your program is probably the most, well, it's not even interdisciplinary, it's transdisciplinary that I have ever seen. And I've done a lot of work at end of life, palliative, and hospice care. They do a really good job of being interdisciplinary. But this was way beyond that. And as a provider, it did make me a little, I was a little self conscious because I knew y'all were getting together and talking about me. And, I just said they really all have good hearts. They're not saying anything bad, even if they're talking about how high strung I am or how OCD. That's true. So that's okay. And I just learned so many things about mind, body, and about pacing. I mean, basically, you say I'm a smart person, but I had what's the word I want to use? I had pressured my nervous system for
Mm,
decades about scheduling things back to back to back to back
mm,
to back to back with no time in between to take a breath or rest, just get in the car, go to the next, or see the next patient, or what have you. So just that simple idea about pacing
mm,
and looking at my calendar and thinking how stressful or how even if it's stressful, it could be an opportunity. But how much of my energy is this going to take out of me, or is it going to give me energy?
mm,
And if it's going to take energy from me, I need to put space around it.
mhm.
Or if I don't have time for space, take a few minutes to breathe. Or Leanne got me addicted to butterscotch, sugar free, hard candies, and some really nice aromatherapy. So if I'm in a rush, I can do that. But it's really changed the way I look at my life and my pace.
Wow. That goes way beyond dystonia.
Mhm.
Also, I feel like you're talking to somebody that tends to overschedule things, so I like need my own OT. But tell me how you see that relate to your dystonia.
Well, every time I rush across the parking lot to go into a grocery store, I am much worse off than if I
Mm,
just relax, take my time. It's going to take me a few seconds more, but not have my whole body in that charge and go
mm,
stance.
mm,
My dystonia is a lot better.
mm, mm,
And I wish I could say I've learned to take it easy all the time. But as Lincoln always said, this is a process. And so I have taken home, besides the pacing, I got a leaf. I don't know if I can show it, but that might be a little bit flashy. It's right under here. Let's see it. Oh, I don't think you can see it through my shirt. Uh it's right under my shirt over my ribs. And this really helps me keep track of heart rate variability in real time. and has helped me know some of the things I do all the time that I didn't really think about that are more taxing to my nervous system, like even driving or going to appointments sometimes. It's very interesting which friends of mine or family members I'll visit with and my leaf starts going off versus those who are really regulating to me.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. And Diane, I my video went away for a second. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. It just got interrupted for a moment, but I think that's I wore the leaf for quite a few months and found similar things that really helped me tune in to
yes.
my body. So you had the dystonia affecting your running and your walking, right? And so what were some of the things? So you talked about pacing, you talked about some of the autonomic or heart
Mhm.
rate, nervous system regulation pieces. What were some of the things that maybe you did from a PT standpoint? I know a lot of folks ask us about some of the sensory and motor training things. Like, what have you incorporated now?
Absolutely. Well, sensory and motor, it really helps me to watch even videos of people walking.
Mm,
It also helps me to walk on the treadmill slowly, like a mile an hour, and
mm,
try some of the sensory motor tricks like reading or watching something or distracting myself on a phone call while I'm walking. And in terms of PT in general, I would say so many of the exercises, when I do them regularly, I will notice probably the next day that I'm walking better.
mm,
And a lot of that is walking on, it's not a treadmill. I have a walking pad, but it's just as good. Uh, Regularly walking on the walking pad and doing some of the PT exercises, as well as I don't blow bubbles, but balloons, like all the kinds of ways to distract ourselves from what we're doing and walking and trying to relax, not necessarily fix it, but relax so my own body remembers what to do.
yeah, yeah. You said that so beautifully, so beautifully. And it sounds like, because 2 weeks is a short period of
Yes.
time. And as Lincoln said, it's a process. It sounds like you're kind of continually applying these things every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and some days are definitely better than others. And instead of running, I've really begun, well, for a couple years now, swimming, which I enjoy even more. And they say that's also good for dystonia. So, yeah, I'm not running, but walking is what I work on every day.
Yeah, that's great. And how much would you say you have improved from kind of like a before reactive to an after reactive?
Well, I think if I was doing my exercises every day like I was reactive, I think I said I was 60 to 80% better at the
Wow.
end of those two
Yeah.
weeks. And I would say that I haven't kept all those gains, but when I work on it, I definitely do.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think you're making such a good point is that it does take work.
Yes,
That, and in like a daily life, it takes like an intention and that you notice a difference when you do that.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's rewarding whenever I do the exercises. It's like it is a process, and I'm confident I'm usually pretty disciplined, but this is one more thing to add in, and it is a process. I haven't added it in every day, but there's more days all the time, and it's coming along.
Yeah, yeah, that I think that's quite incredible. From a fellow parent who is and person working in healthcare that has developed a life that's surrounding a lot of other people's needs.
Yes.
It can be hard to put your own in there, and it sounds like you've made some real steps in that direction. And I just want to acknowledge that that is one of the hardest things ever to do.
It's true. I was, when I was there, I would tease Ava and Lincoln that they should be writing about the dystonic female, and that I would help. That was what I came up with, but that I was happy to help with any qualitative research is my specialty, because evidently this this disorder hits more females than males, very hard driving people, often who are caretakers. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I check all those boxes. And learning that not only do I have a right to pay more attention to my own needs, uh, but I really have to do that for my own health is really critical.
Yeah, beyond beyond the dystonia. And you're right about those characteristics. And what I would say is that that makes for a very special brain. Not necessarily that you made life decisions that caused dystonia, but more that your brain is wired in a way that kind of allowed this to express itself.
Yes.
And I think that that is really important. And you also had this for a few, I mean, not a few, I think you said 6 years or so that since you started noticing symptoms. And I know in talking to a lot of folks with dystonia who maybe had it for years, it could be quite discouraging that maybe it can't get better. And I wonder what you might tell somebody who is kind of feeling that way.
Yes, especially when no one knows what it is, and
Right.
no one's, we have a tendency in healthcare that if we haven't heard of it or we're not familiar with it, we tend to just discount it. I mean, not everyone, not really good clinicians, but that is kind of a normal tendency. And so I didn't think I didn't think it was anything really serious until I started limping when I walked. And before that, I just thought, well, it doesn't seem to be serious. No one's taking it seriously.
Mhm.
And I just kept trying, uh, but slowly doing less and less running and switching to other things.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think one thing I really want to say is I am at a time in my life. I just turned 65, and where I can do that. I'm at a time in my life where I can let go of things, where I don't
Mhm.
have to
Mhm.
drive myself so intensely, and where I felt it was okay. I've been a runner since I was, I don't know, 16. And
Mhm.
so 45 years of running was enough, but I
Mhm. Yeah.
do understand and really want to acknowledge that for people who do not feel that way, that not being able to run is a total life-changing tragedy, that is huge.
Mhm.
And I think the idea of hope and the idea that it's a process and we didn't get dystonia, just like that, and it takes a while to unwind it is a really important point.
Yeah, it's a really important point because I would say most humans would like something like that, like a pill or something. I certainly would.
Yes.
And I wish it was, I really
Yeah.
wish it was.
Yeah.
And it's just when it comes to brain and learning and unlearning, it just takes a
Yes.
while.
Yeah.
It does take a while. And Diane, you also, I hope you don't mind me asking, you've like written some really lovely
Oh,
things and you share them on your Instagram. So I'm going to tell everybody to go follow Diane. But I wonder if you could share a little bit of how people might be able to follow you and see what you're writing and sharing because it's really, really
oh,
wonderful.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I think I'm at Diane Solomon on Instagram, all O's. So thank you for this shout out. I really appreciate it. And what I write, I mostly write a column for Psychology Today online. And every week or 2 weeks now, I will post something that I've been thinking about. So, yes, I wrote about dystonia. I wrote about the story I told about not knowing what the diagnosis was. I wrote about some things I learned at Reactive, like the pacing that I've mentioned, and working that into my schedule and some other things. And I write about wellness and well being in ways to empower readers because I really feel that the more knowledge we have, again, mind and body, yeah, and nervous system, the more knowledge we have, the better caretakers we are for our own health and the better we can advocate for ourselves. And the healthcare system is just, in general, so broken, and I don't know. I mean, I had this journey to figure out what was going on with me, and I know how to navigate the system really well. And I do not mind asking questions when I'm told no, and I have a sense of who to ask or what to ask. And for people without a healthcare background, I just don't know how they can navigate the system at all.
Hmm. Yeah. I feel the same way a lot of the time. We're
Yeah.
educated healthcare professionals and we struggle with it. Yeah. And I actually wonder, if you have some advice for other healthcare professionals. We have a lot of folks that watch these videos. What would you want them to know about dystonia and what you've learned on your journey?
I I think that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. I think, well, people don't know about runner's dystonia, and I think healthcare providers need to be really open to what their patients know, more
Hmm.
open than they are taught to be. When I was working as a nurse midwife and also as a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I always said, I might be a collaborator, but you are the expert. You know you in a way I could never know. I am just your collaborator on this journey. And if more healthcare professionals would understand that, I think it would help so much. The other thing I would say is it makes so much sense to me that I would get runner's dystonia from, I didn't run on a track all those decades, but I did a lot of track running
Mm.
during those 45 years. And if you think about it, our brains and our bodies are not meant to run in circles. They're meant to maybe run all over or walk all over. They're meant for variability. So
Variability.
it's not going to surprise me if these focal dystonias from repetitive movements become more and more common in our contemporary age, and healthcare providers need to be open that there are going to be things that they haven't seen and they don't know about, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Listen, say you don't know, but you're going to try to find out. That's a really good perspective.
Yeah, I think every healthcare professional should just record your words and be repeating those, Diane. Like that builds such collaboration with people. And and maybe one last question is if you're talking to somebody with dystonia who's maybe on the fence about doing something like this, investing the time and money to do something like that, what might you share with them?
I would say if you could do it, 150% do it for so many reasons. Yes, of course, the treatment of dystonia, but it's a time, especially for women, especially for mothers, where we get to focus on ourselves and really reflect and get to learn about ourselves in a way that you just can't when you're at home doing the same thing all the time. And I look at it as life changing and so valuable. So if you can, definitely do it.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank
um
you,
and
Julie.
and I'm so glad we like pushed through and we got the technology to work, and I
Persevered.
persevered, and I got to chat with you at last. I know I got to see you when you were at the clinic, and then Lincoln and your whole team was like, I can't wait for you to interview Diane.
Oh,
And
I
I've just
love
been
them
so
and miss them
excited.
so much.
I know they are so fabulous. And just
Yes.
I've been able to see now following you all of your columns. And again,
Oh.
I would just, really reinforce to everybody, go follow Diane Solomon on Instagram and check out what she's sharing and writing. It's really making a difference, Diane. It really is.
Oh, thank you. Well, it takes a village, and you, Reactive, is such a part of my village. Thank you for what you started and what you're growing, and I hope to come back.
Yeah, well, we'll be your village forever. So
Okay. Thank
thanks
you.
so much, Diane. Have a good night.
You're so welcome. You too, Julie.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.